Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Heritage Register Public Information Center. This is for Phase D of the Heritage Register project. We're focusing on a portion of Old Central and East wards of Brantford tonight. My name is Patrick Buser. I'm a planner with the City of Brantford's Planning and Development Services, specifically long-range planning, and I am the project lead for the City of Brantford on this project. The city has retained Archaeological Services, Inc. to assist with the project. I'm joined tonight by some staff from ASI. We have Annie Vea and Meredith Stewart. This public information center is being recorded, and we will be posting it to the Neighborhood Planning Meetings YouTube page run by the City of Brantford. Now I'll turn it over to Annie to give us an introduction on the project.
Great, thank you so much, Patrick. So thank you for being here tonight. I know everybody has a busy schedule, but we're happy that you were able to take the time to be with us tonight as we present on this phase of the Brantford Heritage Register project. So tonight we're here to share factual information. We're here to answer any questions you might have about the process as well as the results of this project. We'll facilitate a discussion and listen to the range of views and opinions at the end of the presentation, and then we'll identify next steps available to you. My name is Annie Vea, and I'm the consultant project manager from ASI, the consultant team hired by the City of Brantford to undertake this project. I will be giving the presentation as well as moderate the question and answer period at the end. Also with me tonight is our project manager, Meredith Stewart, who's on hand. She'll be taking notes and also available to answer any property-specific questions should any of them come up. Our presentation will provide some background information on heritage registers, background information on this project, as well as a description of the methodology used as part of this project. The presentation will be followed by a question and answer period, and we kindly ask that you wait until the Q&A period to ask your questions. Next slide, please. To begin, we would like to provide information on municipal heritage registers. We'll look at the benefits to the community of a heritage register and the implications of inclusion on a heritage register for a property owner. Next slide, please. So a heritage register is a statutory requirement under the Ontario Heritage Act. The Heritage Register is kept by the clerk of the municipality and must include properties that have been designated for their individual cultural heritage value or interest under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act, or group of properties that have collective cultural heritage value or interest under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Properties protected in this way are called designated properties. A heritage register may also include properties that have not been designated under Part 4 or Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act, but are believed to be of cultural heritage value or interest. These properties are often referred to as listed properties. Today's meeting is to discuss your property becoming a non-designated property on the City of Brantford's Heritage Register. To add or remove non-designated properties from the Heritage Register, council approval in consultation with the Municipal Heritage Committee is required. Next slide, please. There are many benefits to a community of including non-designated properties on a heritage register. A heritage register supports the City of Brantford's policies for cultural heritage conservation. It identifies a cultural heritage resource that are valued by a community and identifies and recognizes the different types of heritage across Brantford's various neighborhoods. Next slide, please. Including non-designated properties on the Heritage Register provides the city with a way to identify in a transparent way and to monitor properties of potential heritage value. These properties may require special attention in the development review process. Inclusion on the Heritage Register also ensures interim protection from demolition. Next slide, please. The Heritage Register provides accessible, comprehensive information about heritage properties that can be used by many people, including developers, planners, community groups, tourism associations, educators, municipal staff, and private citizens. Next slide, please. Depending on how a property is included on a Heritage Register, there are different implications. For designated properties, so those recognized as having cultural heritage value or interest through Part 4 or Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act, a municipal bylaw is registered on the title of the designated property. When a demolition permit is submitted, the city has up to 90 days to review and make a decision to approve with conditions, or refuse the permit. And for alterations or renovations that may affect the designated property's heritage attributes, a heritage permit is required. For non-designated properties or listed properties, which is the focus of the the protection we are discussing tonight. There are no legal documents registered on the title of the property. When a demolition permit is submitted, the city has up to 60 days to review and consider options for conservation. If a decision is not made within 60 days, then the demolition permit is processed normally. And for alterations or renovations, a heritage permit is not required. Next slide. Now that we have looked at how a municipal heritage register works, we would like to take you through the history of the City of Brantford's Heritage Register project. In the 1990s, the City of Brantford started identifying properties with potential cultural heritage value. These properties were documented through an informal inventory, and over the following 25 years, thousands of properties were added to this inventory. Throughout the years, various methods were used to identify, document, and evaluate properties that were added to the inventory. This was a common practice in Ontario as a way to proactively understand properties that were potentially valued in a community. In 2005, the Ontario Heritage Act was amended to enable properties to be included on a municipal heritage register as non-designated. This amendment also enabled the review of demolition permits. The City of Brantford identified a need to review their informal inventory to confirm which properties should be recommended to move on to the Heritage Register through a council-approved process. ASI was retained in late 2017 to review and evaluate the informal inventory, which had over 9,000 properties. The key objectives of the project's work to conduct background research, to review the existing heritage inventory using a consistent methodology, to evaluate properties using criteria that reflect Brantford's unique heritage and which are based on Ontario Regulation 906 of the Ontario Heritage Act, to provide recommendations for properties to be included on the Heritage Register, to provide a user-friendly, accessible database to house the Heritage Register, and to consult with the public. Part 1 of the project was completed in 2 phases between 2018 and 2020. That part of the project included a review of the existing heritage inventory, consultation with the public as well as the Municipal Heritage Committee, historical research, the development of a thematic framework, identification of character areas, screening, field survey, and evaluation. That work recommended 832 properties for inclusion on the Heritage Register as non-designated or listed properties. In August 2020, Council approved the listing of 98 priority properties which have been included on the Heritage Register. We began part 2 of the project in the summer of 2021. Tonight's meeting is part of the 4th of 8 phases that will be carried out through this year and conclude in 2023. Each phase consists of consultation with property owners prior to properties being presented to the Municipal Heritage Committee and Council for a decision. Next slide. So the next part of the presentation is to take you through the work that was conducted that resulted in the recommendation at the end of part 1 of the project. Tools were developed to efficiently evaluate over 9,000 properties to determine which properties should be included as non-designated listed properties on the Heritage Register. The approach was systematic and rigorous. Next slide. To gain an understanding of the individual properties and their context, work was carried out at 3 different scales. At the citywide scale, a thematic framework was developed to understand the key significant themes across the city, when they happened, and why they happened where they did. The city was then divided up into neighborhoods based on local understanding of neighborhood divisions and the development pattern of how areas of the city became part of the city. At this neighborhood scale, it was identified where the themes occurred and what they looked like for different neighborhoods. For example, residential development may look quite different in one part of the city than another because of when that development took place. With these pieces in place, the individual properties were then reviewed to standardize the inventory data for the purpose of comparison and evaluation. The understanding of the city's and the city area's important themes could then be applied to each property. Next slide. During part 1 of the project, there were several points of contact with the community and stakeholders. The project team met with members of the 6 nations of the Grand River Consultation and Accommodation Policy Team and staff of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation Department of Consultation and Accommodation. There were 2 public information centers held which were advertised for anyone in the city to attend. At the first public information center, community members were asked questions about the history of the city, and they identified properties that may be of cultural heritage value through a mapping exercise. The second Public Information Center presented similar information to tonight's presentation on the project, including the methodology and the recommendations. Requests for input from relevant public agencies, heritage organizations, and cultural groups were made. Information was shared about the project on the city's website, and meetings were held with the Brantford Heritage Committee, and a city area workshop was held with the Heritage Committee's Education Subcommittee. Additional properties that were not on the existing heritage inventory were identified as part of the engagement process and integrated into the project. Part 1 of the project also involved the identification of significant historical themes and development of an understanding of how and where these themes have expressed themselves over time. The development of a citywide thematic history framework provided the basic contextual structure for the systematic and consistent inventory and evaluation of properties in terms of their relationships to significant events, trends, and periods in Brantford's history of built form types. Within the thematic framework, important periods, events, and patterns of development were identified and organized into thematic categories: agricultural, industrial, residential, civic and institutional, and commercial. The thematic framework was also structured around a chronology of the city's development, focusing on the significant periods that defined and shaped the city as a whole, from its earliest indigenous land uses to the 21st century. Key event and trends for each thematic category were identified. Next slide. A primary objective of Part 1 of the project was the identification of how and where the city of Brantford's significant development themes physically materialized. This was achieved by linking time periods, key development themes, and associated land uses and built forms with specific areas in the city. This framework provided a system to reliably and consistently understand any building's potential cultural heritage value without requiring extensive knowledge about one individual building. By using location, architectural styles, basic built form information, and prospective building ages, large numbers of properties were then organized and prioritized into categories of known and potential cultural heritage value. Through research and analysis, the city of Brantford was divided into 26 areas and assigned a corresponding name. These units are referred to as city areas. For the purposes of Part 2 of the project, city areas have been grouped into priority areas, both of which are shown on the map. Next slide. The goal of screening properties was to ensure that only those properties that had potential to be eligible for listing on the Heritage Register and were of community interest were documented during field survey and reviewed for evaluation. Screening criteria were developed to capture properties that would best exemplify and communicate the history of Brantford. The criteria that were developed were designed to reflect community interest, communicate Brantford's history, and represent the breadth of building stock within the city. If a property met at least one of the screening criteria, it moved on to field survey. If a property did not meet any criterion, it did not move on for further assessment. Next slide, please. Field survey was conducted between May and August 2019 for all properties that met at least one of the screening criteria. Nearly 4,000 properties in total were surveyed. The goal of the field survey was to photograph the current existing conditions of each property and to update existing property information. The photographs taken during field survey were then used to assess the material integrity of each property. Next slide. Integrity, as defined in the Ontario Heritage Toolkit on Evaluation, is the authenticity of a historical resource's physical identity, evidenced by the remaining characteristics that existed during the resource's period of significance. A scale of low, sufficient, and exceptional was used. Generally, a property that has low integrity retains few or no character-defining features and/or has been substantially altered. Generally, a property that has sufficient integrity will retain a majority of its character-defining features and will retain enough aspects of integrity to convey its significance. Replacement materials may be present so long as they do not affect the overall integrity of design. Similarly, if an addition is present, to be considered sufficient, it must be subordinate to the overall character of the building. Increased age and rarity of the property type may also lower the threshold required for sufficient integrity. Generally, a property that has exceptional integrity will retain all of its character-defining features and will rate highly in all aspects of integrity. A property with exceptional integrity will have undergone few or no alterations since its original construction and will not have been moved from its original location. Additions are either not present or minimally visible from the right-of-way. It should be noted that a property that has a lower integrity rating due to alteration or degradation of original materials can still retain heritage interest or value. Material integrity is one of many factors considered in evaluating a property's heritage value. Next slide. Any property that was determined to have sufficient or exceptional integrity then moved forward to evaluation. It should be noted that all properties that made it through the screening process, including those with low integrity, have the potential to retain cultural heritage value or interest. Focusing the evaluation process on properties of sufficient and exceptional integrity, however, provides the opportunity for prioritization of the strongest candidates for listing. The evaluation process was used to establish which criteria properties met, with each property having the potential to meet one or more of the evaluation criteria. Properties in the evaluation phase were measured against each of the evaluation criteria based on available historical information on the existing heritage inventory and physical and contextual data collected during the field survey. Design or physical criteria looked at whether a property has an early date of construction for the city or for the city area, whether it is a rare or vanishing type, and whether it is a rare, representative, or unique style or design. Historical or associative value considered whether the property was associated with a significant organization, architect, or notable person or event. Contextual value considered whether the property was located at an intersection and designed for its corner lot, whether it was commercial property within a primarily residential neighborhood, and whether it was associated with a specific type of development within an area. Next slide. Using the evaluation criteria and material integrity in combination allows the opportunity to identify which properties are the strongest candidates for inclusion on the Heritage Register. Strong candidates are those properties that meet multiple evaluation criteria and are of exceptional or sufficient material integrity. Equally strong candidates are those properties that retain exceptional or sufficient material integrity and are at a greater risk of loss. Properties which have a greater risk of loss are those that naturally have fewer properties as they reflect unique, rare, or vanishing styles or types, or are part of a collection of properties which have value as a group. Next slide. For part 2 of the project, the Phase D properties are shown in dark gray on the map. The properties were identified as strong candidates for inclusion on the Heritage Register as non-designated listed properties. Next slide. To review, inclusion on the Heritage Register as a non-designated listed property means there are no legal documents registered on the title of the property. Should you apply for a demolition permit, the city has up to 60 days to review and consider options for conservation. However, if the decision is not made within 60 days, then the demolition permit is processed normally. When you are making alterations or renovations to your property, a heritage permit is not required. Next slide. So following this presentation, there will be an opportunity to ask questions this evening. And there is an ongoing opportunity to speak to Patrick, who is the planner at the city who spoke at the beginning. His contact information is shown on the screen. Following tonight's meeting, there will be several meetings at which this phase of the project will be discussed. On May 30th, the city will be presenting to the Brantford Heritage Committee. Then on June 14th, a report will be provided to the Committee of the Whole, Planning and Administration for consideration. Following that, Council will make a decision at their June 28th meeting. Should you wish to do so, written comments received by May 24th, that's a Tuesday, will be provided to Brantford Heritage Committee and Council for their consideration. While staff try and provide all comments to Committee and Council, after that date, it may not be possible to update the report itself to address the comment. I hope this presentation has provided you with the information you need to understand why your property is recommended for inclusion on the Heritage Register. We will not now stop sharing the presentation so we can get into our question and answer period. During this time, please feel free to raise your virtual hand and we'll call on you in order as best we can. If you prefer, you can also type in your question or comment in the chat function and we'll then read that out loud for everyone to hear. Thank you.
Patrick, we have 3 attendees in our list. I'll just go in order of the first one. Jane, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, we have a Jane Ross on the line. Go ahead with your question.
I'm just wondering, would it increase insurance premiums?
So I can speak to that. So the listing process itself doesn't actually increase any obligations on you as a property owner. So there's no reason by virtue of listing that your insurance would increase. Now, we can't say that your insurance company may not have more concerns or questions for you if you own an older home. For example, they might ask about what the water lines are like, or if there is knob and tube wiring. And that won't be affected by whether your home is listed or not. So no, again, the short answer is listing should not increase your property insurance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a Mary Lou Necto. Mary Lou, would you like to present your question, please?
Yes, we have a building at 137 Nelson Street. Way back when we went to fix it up in 2006, we had a terrible time trying to get funding to fix it up, and we finally went through a private lender. So we've turned our building into a working warehouse. Now, I don't want to have anything to hold us back down the road if it was determined that we had to sell the building. We put a lot of work in, we value it, and hopefully the next person would value it as much as we have. I'm pleased to see that it's being recognized because the building in the back is a landlocked building. It's four actually different addresses that make up this whole complex. And I guess that's my concerns. I don't want to have the property devalued because it's now in some form of a heritage registry. So I think I know the answer, but I want to get it confirmed. Right, Patrick?
So does listing affect your property value? That's, as I understand the question.
Yeah.
Sorry, then to clarify, the question is,
well, if we down the road
Yep.
had to sell the building, then I don't want, because it is under
Right.
some kind of a heritage registry, that it would really prohibit. Now, somebody can buy the building because they like the aspect that it is a heritage looking building, but then there can be other people. And now in this market, I am concerned. So that's my question.
yeah, so the listing process doesn't prevent any alterations in the future. It's only the demolition process that we review. We would try and encourage that someone, if they're looking to renovate the building and they ask us about what that process looks like, we would encourage that the significant portions be adaptively reused, but listing won't prevent them from buying that property, altering it to fit their use.
Well, the building has been well maintained. We gutted everything and did it all from scratch. I can't see how anybody can go ahead and want to demolish it.
Mhm.
So just wanted to ask the question.
Thank you, Mary Lou. And our last attendee is Mr. Warren Mark. Warren, go ahead with your question, please.
Oh, hello, can you hear me or?
Yes, we can.
Okay, very good. Sorry, I'm new to Zoom. So I guess being non-designated, now eventually will that make us fully registered as a heritage building later on? Does it set the, I guess the pathway to be registered later on?
So I can speak to that. And so listed properties are great candidates for being like fully designated under the Heritage Act, but being listed does not mean that process is automatic. You know, you can, or if you're representing an owner, can ask for their property to be designated. It opens up that discussion when the demolition occurs, or we look at other avenues that may be, again, the building could be adaptively reused and designation isn't a factor in that. And it just, it's conserved through normal planning processes, adaptively reused. But so no, listing is not an automatic step. Like it's not automatic that you will have a designated property after that. They're separate processes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay, if anybody else has any other questions at this time, I don't see any hands, Patrick, or.
Yeah, and we only have the 3 attendees tonight. Oh, I see Jane.
Oh, wait, Jane, go ahead, Jane.
Sorry, not a question. I just want to say thank you for all that you're doing. to make this possible. So I'm really happy. Thank you.
And I see Mary Lou, you have your hand up as well.
I really want to echo the same thing that Jean just said. We're losing so many buildings around the city of Brantford. When the downtown went, you go on a bike ride. I actually went along for Jane's walk on Saturday in Eagle Place, and I saw some buildings I didn't even know existed, like the old GWG factory. So there's a lot of little hidden gems, and we've got to recognize those hidden gems. And it's got to be looked at with eyes like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets of eyes that we have here in front of us today. So thank you.
Jane and Mary Lou, thank you so much for the kind words. This is the kind of work we enjoy doing with the Heritage Register project, of just celebrating that history of that Brantford has, and helping the properties tell their story, and sort of celebrating that they, had these important contributions to the community's history. Now, we're only at 6:30, but we have the 3 attendees, so we're happy to answer one final round of questions. If Jane, Mary Lou, or Warren, you have any more. Otherwise, we'll just put the last slide back up on the screen. I'll reiterate the information for the next steps of the project. For anyone who is watching this on our YouTube channel after the recording ends. But yeah, so Jane, Mary Lou, or Warren, do you have any further questions? Just one last opportunity.
Not at the present time. No, thank you.
Okay.
So is there a listing of what places you're putting in there right now? I will go into the website and be able to see all the different properties that you listed.
So right now we don't have a map. We do have on our Heritage Register webpage. You can go to that website, click on the link to the August 2020 recommendations report. That includes a list of the highest rated properties that ASI evaluated. Those are added to our register in August of 2020. And then one of the schedules provides a list of all the properties that are being considered in part 2 of the project. We are working on getting an interactive map created that can go on our website. That'll let you navigate around the city, click on a property that's flagged and listed on the register, and it'll generate a property information sheet that explains a bit of the reasons the property was recommended for listing. We don't have that at this time. We're making sure that we can make that map fully accessible and barrier-free in accordance with the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. So not right now, but we are working on getting that just bullet list essentially to a full map.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I think we'll call the end of the question period there. And Meredith, if you can put that last slide up again, and I'll just go over my contact information. All right, so again, those who are interested in asking any questions or following about the project, you can email me. My email's on the screen. For those who can't see the screen and are listening, you can reach me at P for Patrick, V as in Victor, USIR@brantford.ca. You can also call me at 519-759-4150 and extension 5698. Staff are making a presentation to the Brantford Heritage Committee on May 30th. Following that, we'll be presenting to Committee of the Whole, Planning and Administration on June 14th. Those are the 2 meetings where the project will really be discussed. Committee members will have a chance to ask staff about the project. And members of the public are encouraged to delegate at one of those 2 meetings. Ultimately, after the Committee of the Whole, Council will make a decision on June 28th. For those who are curious, all members of Council sit on the Committee of the Whole. So they tend to discuss matters at Committees of the Whole or other standing committees of the city, and then all the decisions get ratified at Council. Our target deadline for comments is May 24th. If you provide your comments to me by that date, we'll make sure to include your comments in the report. Anyone who objects, we include a clear reference that they have filed their objection in our report. Same thing if you are supportive, we'll make note that you are supportive of your property being listed. After that date, we'll do our very best to make sure that your objection or request to be listed is given to Committee of the Whole and to Council for consideration. We just may not be able to add it to the staff report because agendas start getting printed after the 24th. So that concludes our Public Information Center tonight. Thank you all for attending, and for those watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. Have a good evening.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.